What happens when a CEO goes undercover and realizes the real problem isn't poor training, but someone sabotaging their own team? Jared Booker stared at the customer satisfaction reports from store number 9, eyes narrowing. 13 fast casual restaurants stretched across 3 states under his family's name, a legacy left to him by his father 5 years ago. Most were thriving, but this location in Springfield kept dipping. Bad reviews, high turnover, low morale. The manager's reports blamed general staff incompetence. But Jared had heard that excuse one too many times. He pushed back from his office desk and rubbed his jaw. I'm done reading filtered versions of the truth. He called his assistant. Book me a week in Springfield. I'm going undercover. Don't tell anyone. Jared had never met the team there. He'd inherited all 13 stores, and with constant travel and board meetings, hadn't seen every face. Plus, with a fresh buzz cut, fake glasses, and a 5-day shadow, he looked more like a tired guy looking for a paycheck than the CEO of the company. His name tag would read Jason. When he arrived, the district manager had already arranged for a new trainee to shadow the weekday shift. The store manager, a woman named Tanya, didn't even come out to greet him. A shift lead handed him a uniform and pointed to the back. Hey, a voice called softly. You're Jason?
I'm Whitney.
I'll train you today. Whitney Keller was in her late 20s, friendly but focused. She walked him through the prep line, the register, the cleaning checklist. She didn't cut corners, didn't rush. But halfway through the lunch rush, Jared noticed something strange. A mistake had been made on a customer's order: extra cheese, no tomato. The customer complained, and Whitney calmly fixed it. But minutes later, Tanya stormed onto the floor. Who messed up table 7?
Tanya barked.
Whitney lifted her hand. That was me. I already know, Tanya snapped. I checked the slip. Jason punched it in wrong. He's new, so I'll let it slide, but next time, double check, Jason. Jared blinked. He knew he hadn't touched that order. He'd only been restocking cups then. Whitney opened her mouth, but Tanya turned and walked off before she could say anything. Later that afternoon, when they took a break near the back cooler, Jared asked, Does that happen a lot? Whitney hesitated. Sometimes. I don't want to talk bad about anyone.
But yeah.
Tanya doesn't like admitting when she messes something up. Even if it wasn't you, he asked. She gave a tired shrug. It's easier to let it roll off. The next day, Jared came in early and saw Whitney already cleaning the front counter alone. The place opened in 30 minutes. Anyone else coming in? Should be, she said. But sometimes people call out.
Why?
Tanya cuts hours a lot. Schedules people for 20, then asks them to volunteer for more. No overtime. So they stop picking up extra shifts. That afternoon, during another rush, Tanya yelled again. Jason, you gave the wrong change to table 4. I didn't ring them up, Jared said plainly. Yes, you did. I saw you. But he hadn't. It was another staff member, Carlos, who looked down at his shoes, clearly confused. I didn't mean to, Carlos muttered. You're on thin ice, Tanya snapped. Both of you. After the shift, Carlos caught up with Jared.
You didn't do that, man.
I did. But she's been on my case all week. I just didn't want to argue. Jared nodded, jaw tight. Thanks for telling me. By day 3, Jared had seen enough. Tanya consistently blamed others for mistakes: orders, scheduling errors, missed deliveries. But when Whitney fixed something, Tanya took credit. Jared watched it happen again and again. But it was day 4 that broke him. A customer had a peanut allergy. Whitney double-checked the ingredients 3 times before sending the order out. Tanya, annoyed by the delay, redid the plate herself and used the wrong sauce. The customer reacted, thankfully not severely, but had to leave in a panic. Whitney was mortified. Tanya lied directly to the customer's husband. The trainee must have used the wrong sauce. He didn't know. Jared stepped forward, heartbeat thudding. No, I didn't.
Tanya blinked.
Excuse me? I said I didn't make that plate. He took off his hat and wiped his forehead. You did.
I saw it.
You were in a rush and told Whitney to step aside. Tanya's face flushed. You're a trainee. You don't know what you saw. I'm not a trainee, Jared said. I'm Jared Booker. I own this company. The room froze. Whitney's mouth parted in shock. Carlos, standing nearby, dropped the tray he was holding. Tanya's face went pale. Jared crossed his arms, eyes locked on her. And we're going to have a real conversation now. Tanya stood frozen, one hand still gripping the POS terminal, her knuckles pale. The hum of the soda machine and the low murmur of a few customers in the dining area filled the silence that followed Jared's reveal. Whitney didn't speak. She looked like she wanted to vanish into the floor. Jared didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Follow me to the back, he said, eyes never leaving Tanya's. She hesitated, then turned sharply and disappeared into the hallway leading to the manager's office. Jared nodded toward Carlos, who was still standing stiffly. Stay on the line for now. Whitney, can you watch the front? She gave a quick nod, not asking questions. Inside the cramped manager's office, Tanya was pacing, arms crossed tightly over her chest. You can't just show up like this, she said. There's protocol. You're supposed to notify corporate. I don't answer to corporate. I am corporate. Jared shut the door behind him. Sit. She stayed standing.
Fine.
Then I'll talk and you'll listen. He kept his tone even. I've been watching for 4 days. You lied to customers. Reassigned blame to staff for your own errors. Took credit for others' work. And today your negligence put someone's health at risk. I didn't know it had peanuts, you didn't check. And worse, you stopped someone who was checking. That's the difference. Tanya's jaw clenched. I've been running this store for 3 years. You think you can come in undercover for a few days and understand everything? I understand that your turnover rate is twice as high as our other stores, he replied. I understand that every time someone tries to bring up a concern, you shut them down. I understand that you've created a culture where people are afraid to speak, and that kind of place doesn't survive.
She scoffed.
You don't get what it's like down here. You sit in your office and make judgments. We're understaffed, overworked, and corporate cuts hours like it's nothing. Jared didn't flinch. I know exactly how many labor hours are budgeted to this store. You've been underusing them for 6 months. I reviewed the logs before I got here. She blinked, finally sitting. Why would I do that? You tell me. Maybe it helps your bonus if labor stays low. Maybe you like keeping people desperate enough to say yes to unpaid hours. Either way, it ends now. She didn't respond. You're being placed on immediate unpaid suspension, he said. Effective now. HR will contact you within 24 hours. Security will escort you out. Her mouth opened, but only a shallow breath came out. She stood, suddenly quiet, and left the room without another word. Jared stepped out a few minutes later with a clipboard in hand and addressed the remaining staff on shift. I need 10 minutes, he said. Break room. They gathered slowly. Whitney sat near the wall, still in her apron, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Carlos leaned forward on a stool, eyes wary. 2 others from the afternoon shift looked confused but curious. I'm not here to reprimand anyone, Jared began. I'm here because I failed to see what this store had become. That's on me. Nobody said anything, but the tension in the room softened slightly. I saw some of the hardest working people I've met in a long time over the last few days. People staying late, covering for others, doing 2 jobs without being asked. And doing it without recognition, without support, sometimes while being blamed for things they didn't do. That ends here. Carlos looked up. What happens now? First, I'm bringing in an interim manager from our Kansas City store, someone I trust. She'll be here tomorrow morning. She runs a tight ship, but she listens. Second, I'm reviewing the last 6 months of payroll. If you are asked to work off clock, you'll be compensated. Whitney shifted in her seat. Are we safe to say things now? You always should have been, Jared said. But yes. From now on, I want weekly anonymous feedback from this store to come directly to my office. Not filtered. I'll read every report myself. One of the line cooks, a younger guy with a pierced eyebrow, raised his hand. Does this mean we're hiring again?
Already started, Jared said.
I just approved a hiring bonus for Springfield. But I need your help. We can't fix culture if we bring in people who want to coast. We need people who care. Like you. Whitney finally looked him in the eye. You saw everything? All of it. She nodded once, but didn't say anything more. After the meeting, Jared stepped out to the dining room. The customer who'd had the allergy reaction had already been contacted by the emergency hotline protocol, and Jared had left his personal contact information with the family. He would follow up personally that evening. Back behind the counter, the team moved more freely now. Not relaxed yet, but lighter. Carlos was checking the backup fridge inventory and calling out missing items. Whitney was correcting a mislabeled prep bin with a Sharpie. The afternoon shift was working through the orders with quiet focus. Jared rolled up his sleeves. Need another hand on the grill? He asked. The cook blinked. You still working the shift? I'm not leaving until this place runs the way it's supposed to. That includes today. He grabbed a pair of gloves and stepped behind the line. They moved through the dinner rush without incident. No yelling, no questions. At one point, when a new hire misread a ticket, Carlos gently corrected him. Whitney caught a mislabeled sauce bottle and swapped it out before it hit the line. At closing, Jared pulled Whitney aside near the back sink. You've kept this place on its feet, he said. Even when it wasn't fair. She wiped her hands on a towel. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. You did more than that. You gave people a reason to stay. You want to move up? She looked surprised. I never thought I'd. I'm not asking out of pity. I'm asking because I need people in leadership who've already proven they put others first. Whitney hesitated, then nodded.
Yeah.
I do. Then in 2 weeks, you're assistant manager. Interim until we finalize the paperwork. Full training starts Monday. She covered her mouth with one hand, but didn't cry. Just nodded again. As Jared left the store that night, the parking lot was nearly empty. He paused by his rental car and looked back at the building. The store wasn't fixed yet, not completely. But something had shifted. It wasn't just about punishing bad leadership. It was about making sure the good ones finally had room to lead. By Monday morning, the interim manager, Denise Harper, was already in place. Jared stayed in Springfield, keeping a low profile while giving Denise room to operate. She had transferred in from the Kansas City location overnight and made it clear from the start that she wasn't there to babysit. She was there to clean house and rebuild. Whitney arrived early, her new responsibilities already taking shape. She didn't wear the assistant manager badge yet, but she carried a clipboard and checked inventory alongside Denise, who reviewed every number with a sharp eye. The staff, still cautious, worked quietly but steadier than before. Jared sat at a side booth near the front, laptop open, watching the breakfast shift unfold. He wasn't in disguise anymore, but he hadn't announced himself to customers either. For now, he was a quiet presence. Denise didn't waste time. By noon, she had already conducted one-on-one meetings with every team member scheduled that day. No script, no platitudes. She asked direct questions, took notes, and didn't interrupt. When Whitney came out of her meeting, Jared looked up. How'd it go? She asked about what I'd change first. I told her the prep board layout has been a mess for months. She just said, fix it today. That was it. Did you? Already done. Denise stepped out from the back, holding a time card report. She walked over to Jared's table, without hesitation. You've got hours missing from 2 employees. February through March. About 6 total shifts each. Looks like manual edits. Names: Carlos and a kid named Evan. Both edits trace back to Tanya's login. Jared closed the laptop.
Documented.
We'll handle it through legal. Denise nodded and walked off without wasting a word. By midweek, the difference wasn't dramatic, but it was measurable. Orders were going out faster, customer complaints dropped to near zero, and most importantly, no one was being undermined. Still, the damage Tanya had done wasn't erased. Trust didn't snap back overnight. On Thursday, while Jared reviewed vendor contracts in the back office, a quiet knock came at the door. Whitney entered, holding a folded sheet of paper. "I found this in the drawer by the old schedule clipboard." She handed it over. It was a list written by Tanya, names and notes next to each. Some were crossed out. Whitney's name had a comment beside it. "Too soft. Keep her small." Jared folded the paper carefully and tucked it into the folder beside him. "You have a new schedule clipboard now?"
Yeah.
"And Denise actually asked me to draft the next schedule." He raised an eyebrow. "You comfortable doing that?" "I am. But I need to ask something." She hesitated. "Carlos is good. But he's been late twice this week. He's not lazy. I think something's going on, but I don't want to make assumptions." Jared stood up and walked toward the break room with her. Carlos was finishing his shift, wiping down a counter, head low. Jared stopped beside him. "You free for a minute?" Carlos straightened.
Sure.
They stepped into the back hallway. Jared leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You've been solid since I got here. But Whitney flagged something twice this week. You clocked in late. Want to talk about it?" Carlos looked down. "My mom's been sick. I've been taking her to appointments. I didn't want to ask for time off because, well, before, Tanya would cut your hours if you asked for anything." Whitney listened quietly, not stepping in. Jared nodded once. "We have the medical leave policy. You're entitled to request schedule adjustments. You're not risking anything by asking now." Carlos looked up. "I didn't know that was an option." "It is," Jared said. "But you've got to communicate. Don't disappear. Let us know what you need." "I can do that." Jared turned to Whitney. "Talk to Denise. See if we can shift his next few shifts to afternoons. Give him mornings free." She nodded. As Carlos headed out, Jared looked back at Whitney. "That's leadership, by the way." "What is?" "Knowing something's wrong, and finding out why before jumping to conclusions." Later that day, Denise pulled Jared aside. "There's a deeper issue. Tanya didn't just run things poorly, she blocked out anyone who might outshine her. I've got 2 more employees who told me they asked to cross-train and were told to stay in their lane. One of them, Nadine, is a beast on the grill. She's been stuck wiping tables for 6 months. Has she been trained properly? She trained herself, watched others, asked questions when Tanya wasn't around. I tested her this morning. She's faster than our current line lead." "Promote her," Jared said. "Already offered. She starts Friday." Jared took a breath. "How's morale?" "Still raw. But they're starting to believe this place won't punish them for doing the right thing." By Friday, Jared shifted from observer to participant again. He worked the line during lunch, side by side with Nadine, who moved with quick, efficient confidence. She didn't talk much, but her timing was perfect, her plating clean. During a lull, Jared turned to her. "Why didn't you speak up before?" She didn't look at him, just kept prepping. "I did. Once." Tanya laughed and said I should worry about wiping ketchup off floors before dreaming about the kitchen. Jared didn't reply. He didn't need to. Instead, he handed her the next order ticket and stepped back to let her lead the line. That evening, as the shift wound down, Jared called a quick team huddle near the front. Whitney stood beside him, clipboard in hand. Denise leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "I'm heading out tomorrow," Jared said. "But before I do, there are a few things you should know. He looked around the circle, 15 employees, some in uniform, some clocked out but still there. We're launching a peer-nominated recognition program. Every month, one person from each store will be highlighted not by corporate, but by you. You'll nominate each other. Not for being perfect, but for stepping up when it matters. Nods around the group. Second, I'm creating a Springfield-specific development fund. Anyone who wants to pursue management training, food safety certification, or even customer service workshops will cover it. No strings attached. Whitney raised her eyebrows slightly, clearly surprised. And third, Jared continued, Whitney's promotion becomes official next week. Assistant manager. Full title. Full pay. Full responsibility. A few claps started quietly, then grew. Whitney looked down, smiling for the first time since he'd met her. After the meeting, as people trickled out, Denise approached Jared. You're really leaving tomorrow? I am, but I'll be back. Random visits. No disguises, next time. She gave a short nod. Good. They'll need to see you stay involved. I will. Outside, the parking lot was quiet again. Jared leaned on the hood of his car, watching the lights flicker off inside the store one by one. He didn't feel proud. Not yet. Pride would come later if the changes stuck. If the people who'd been overlooked finally got a clear path forward. If no one had to work under someone like Tanya again. For now, he felt something steadier. Accountable. The following Monday marked the beginning of a new rotation, and for the first time in months, the schedule was fully staffed, though just barely. Jared had authorized a short-term labor boost to help stabilize operations, and Denise had made use of every hour. Still, Whitney arrived early, knowing the morning prep would run tight. She didn't pause when she came in. No coffee, no chatting. Gloves on, apron tied, sleeves rolled. She was already slicing peppers when Denise walked into the kitchen. You always this early? Denise asked, checking the walk-in temperature log. I don't like rushing the first hour, Whitney said without looking up. Things go wrong when you're trying to catch up. Denise glanced at the prep board. The new layout Whitney had implemented was neat, color-coded, and actually being followed. She gave a short nod and moved on without comment. By mid-morning, the small team had settled into a rhythm. Carlos had been reassigned to later shifts for the week. Nadine was running the line with quiet command, and Whitney, now officially in leadership, was handling the front with a calm that didn't need volume to be respected. Jared watched from a corner seat again, this time intentionally more visible. He wore no logo, no title pin, just a plain button-up and jeans. A few customers had begun recognizing him from the company's social media posts. He acknowledged them politely, but kept it brief. After the lunch rush, a new hire named Marcus asked Whitney if he could take his break. She checked the clock. Go ahead. 15. Let me know if you need a longer one. As he walked off, Nadine leaned over the counter and said quietly, he's solid. Picks things up fast. Way better than the last guy. Whitney didn't respond right away. Then, let's see how he does after the rush. It's easy to look good when things are slow. Jared caught that. It wasn't dismissive, it was measured. She wasn't rushing to praise or criticize. She was learning how to lead without being led by emotion. Denise came out from the back office and motioned to Jared. He stood and followed her through the manager's corridor, past the utility sink, and into the small office. HR finalized the investigation, she said, handing him a printed report. Payroll adjustments are in progress. Employees will see retroactive pay within 10 business days. Jared flipped through the pages, scanning for discrepancies. Everything was itemized: names, dates, adjusted hours, and Tanya's override logins. What about the feedback hotline? Live now, Denise said. Each store has a unique code. Springfield's team already submitted 5 entries. One flagged a concern about a vendor delivery spoiled produce arrived 2 days ago. Who flagged it? Whitney. He gave a small nod. Handled. Vendor's been notified. Credit issued. Whitney pulled the items and updated the checklist herself. Jared closed the folder and set it aside. Let's talk permanent management. Denise sat down across from him. I'm not staying here.
I was clear about that.
I know, Jared said. But I need your recommendation. She rested her boots on the edge of the desk, arms crossed. There's one candidate who's ready. Knows the store, knows the people, doesn't chase control. She builds it. Whitney. She won't ask for it, but she's earned it. Jared leaned back in the chair, considering. Make it official, he said. Full manager title. You can stay another week to transition her. Denise didn't smile. She just stood and said, she'll handle it. Later that evening, Whitney found Jared in the dining area after close. The last customer had left, and Nadine was pulling chairs onto tables. I heard, she said, stopping in front of him. Manager? He nodded once. You weren't going to ask. So I'm telling you. She exhaled slowly, then looked down at her shoes. Denise told me something earlier, she said. She said leadership isn't about control. It's about making sure the right things happen even when you're not watching. You agree with that?
I didn't used to, she said.
But now I do. Jared stood, stretching his back. The day had been long, but it was the kind of tired that came from progress, not friction. I'll be back in a month, he said. Not to inspect. Just to listen. Whitney nodded, then hesitated. You think the others will trust me? After everything? They already do, Jared said. They just haven't said it out loud yet. The next morning, a new delivery driver arrived. Whitney met him at the back door, clipboard in hand. She checked every box before signing, calling out damaged packaging and photographing it for records. Nadine came out to help, and the two of them worked through the rest without needing direction. Jared watched from the side lot, out of sight. He didn't go inside. Instead, he drove to the regional office and met with HR to finalize one last piece of the puzzle, an internal leadership development program built from field nominations, not resumed submissions. Whitney's name would be first on the list, not because of her title, but because she'd proven what mattered most: consistency under pressure, integrity without recognition, and the courage to challenge what was broken without becoming bitter. That afternoon, Jared sent a final email to the entire company. No press release, no announcement of what had happened in Springfield. Just a message about the new values-based promotion structure, the anonymous feedback system now active company-wide, and a note that said simply, leadership isn't about power. It's about what happens when no one's watching. Back in Springfield, the store ran its dinner shift without incident. Orders went out on time, trays came back clean, and the team moved around each other like they belonged there.
No scouting.
No fear.
No excuses.
Just work done right.